My wife suggested a video that I should make for this concrete YouTube channel, and she helps an awful lot with the concrete, and she's learned an awful lot about concrete over the years. And I said, well, why don't you write it, and then I will record that YouTube video. So here I am today, proudly presenting to you 7 anti-aging tips for your concrete. Tip number 1, seal your concrete regularly. This probably is the first thing that people aren't doing that they should be doing if you care at all about this concrete or how it looks or how long it lasts. Concrete is a porous substance and it will absorb water, and when it absorbs water it will wear away over time. I mean, it wears slowly, it takes a long time, but it definitely happens. In sealing your concrete, using a concrete sealer perhaps every year or 2 at most is a great way, the number 1 way, to make your concrete last longer. 2, don't pressure wash too often. I mean, you definitely want your concrete to look good, but if you're out there every week with a pressure washer, you are going to wear away the surface detail. Blasting it with water over and over again will certainly compromise the finish and will wear away the Portland cement in the top layers, leaving behind just the aggregate, which will make the surface sandy and weak over time. So definitely avoid too much pressure washing. And when you do pressure wash, try to be a little bit lighter, use a less aggressive tip, and be a little bit further away from the concrete. Tip number 3 for anti-aging tips for your concrete would be to take anything inside that can come inside. Especially if you live in a cold climate that has freezing conditions for the winter, concrete doesn't really do so well with freezing conditions. So if you can, bring that item inside and it's going to last a lot longer and look a lot better. Anti-aging tip number 4, don't acid wash. Acid washing is a process that especially professionals use for cleaning concrete, and I mean really cleaning concrete, because in addition to stripping away any dirt or contaminants on the surface layer, it actually burns, etches the surface layer a little bit. If there's calcium deposits, they'll burn away, and the Portland cement in the top exposed layers will burn away ever so slightly. So acid washing is a great way to make concrete look better immediately. But if you're talking about concrete longevity and looking good over the long term, you probably want to minimize acid washing. Ideally, avoid acid washing altogether. And if you do have to acid wash concrete for some reason, use a much more diluted solution. A lot of people are too aggressive. If you can see the acid wash kind of foaming and hissing, that's way too strong. It should barely foam or bubble at all. It's supposed to all be about, elbow grease and scrubbing it with nylon brushes. That's how you acid wash concrete. A very, very gentle acid wash, and then be sure to neutralize once you're done. Anti-aging tip number 5. If you have like a concrete deck and you want it to look good over the long term, don't take a planter and sit it on top where it's going to be leaking water through and it's got brown staining, because you're going to stain that concrete permanently. What you have to remember is that concrete is porous. Even if you seal it regularly with a concrete sealer, it's still a little bit porous. And what you can end up with is a permanent stain when it sinks farther in, because the stain is no longer on the surface. You can't scrub it away, and there's nothing that you can use that will get down to cleaning that stain without also damaging the concrete. Anti-aging tip number 6 for concrete. Paint your concrete. I mean, you could get a concrete paint. You could get a concrete paint and sealer together so that you can add some sort of color along with the sealing properties. You could use a stain, something like that. And when you do so, you're going to help reseal that surface layer. Remember, concrete is porous, and we seal it to help make it less porous. Well, when you use things like stains and paints, that also helps to make it less porous. So it's going to make it more stain resistant. It's going to last longer because there's less water permeation. It's really beneficial. So think about staining or painting your concrete. Finally, the last tip I have for anti-aging of concrete. You can put a skim coat on older failing concrete. Sometimes. Now, some professionals would say, well, no, once concrete's failed, that's it, it's compromised, you have to take it out and put in new concrete. And for the most part, they're right. There are some special occasions. Let's say you had a concrete with a color and you hate this color. Like, you bought this house, it's got this funny concrete deck and it's totally the wrong color and you hate it. What can you do? As it turns out, there's not a lot you can do about concrete that's already colored, so one of your only options would be to give it a facelift, or in this case, parge a very thin layer of new concrete over that. Now, it takes a very special modified concrete mix to do these very thin overlays, but it is something that you can look at doing if you have older concrete and you want to give it a facelift, because you can essentially take something that looks pretty old and pretty bad and you can make it look almost new again. Maybe it won't last as long as, you know, a uniformly poured concrete deck, but it's going to last a little while and it's going to look a lot better than what you had before. Concrete lasts a long time, but it doesn't last forever. So take some of these steps, these preventative maintenance tips, to help make sure that your concrete lasts as long as possible and looks as good as possible. What do you think, Mary? I can't make a fist because my finger's in a cast. You can't tell because it's in a glove. And I just realized that now because I look ridiculous, but that's why I'm wearing gloves, because my hand's in a cast and that looks funny. What do you think, Mary? Was that good?